Hi, everybody, and welcome as part of our 10 Minutes with series. We are delighted to welcome the awesome Madge, founder of Meee, who is going to be joining us this year at the PA Forum Learning and Development Conference. Sid, it is absolutely wonderful to spend this time with you. How are you doing?
Really good, Daniel. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me on. And hello, everybody. Nice to meet you virtually. Hopefully see you in person soon.
Absolutely. Well, many of you will have seen the wonderful Paula Harding, who we all know so well, has been working with Sid. Now, how long have you been working with Paula now, Sid?
18 months.
Wow, amazing. And Paula kindly introduced us to Sid and said, I would absolutely love it if you could work collaboratively with Sid on a session at the conference this year. So Sid, I know that many of our members have been watching your journey online. So can you tell us a little bit more about you? Tell us a little bit more about Meee.
Yeah, I suppose Meee started 8 years ago. And I mean, previous to that, I'd spent 20 or 25, 26 years as a brand consultant, worked in London, New York, Amsterdam, around the world, helping huge PLCs, multinational companies, just with kind of branding and culture and change and all that kind of stuff, which was great. And I had a great career. And then, how many was it? 12 years ago, I decided to relocate up to North Wales to be with my daughter, who sadly got divorced, and I wanted to see her through secondary school. And as part of that, I kind of thought, so how am I going to create a business in the middle of nowhere, which is up in North Wales? And I got in touch with the Welsh government, and they said, well, actually, you've got some really good experience. Could you go into schools and businesses and kind of talk to them? So I went to one particular school, and I had an hour talk, basically, and it was all about being an entrepreneur and kind of doing things differently in marketing and stuff, basically colouring in. And I asked the audience if they could describe themselves using one word. And these kids were about 15, 16 years old, similar age to my daughter Lily at the time. I said, if you could use one word to describe yourself, what would it be? And the young lad that was sat literally down to my right, I said to him, what's your word? And he said, oh, weirdo. And I went, oh, what a brilliant word, because I'm kind of a bit cuckoo and creative and all that kind of stuff. And he said, no, Sid, he said, I'm bullied, I don't fit in at school. My music's really weird. And I sort of said to him, well, okay, hold that thought a minute. Let's go around the rest of the class. And about 20% of them said abnormal, freak, misfit, some really kind of negative words. And the rest of the words that many of them were using weren't overly positive. So instead of talking to them about the wonderful world of branding and marketing and kind of, being an entrepreneur, I said, why do we feel the way that we do? And then we just got into this conversation of, where does that come from? Where it comes from, beliefs and choices and all that kind of stuff. And then I just created on the hoof some really crazy little exercises for people to think. And then at the end of the session, we all agreed that we're all freaks and misfits and weirdos and what a wonderful world it is. And then from there, did loads of research into suicide rates, dropout rates, unhappiness at work. I mean, this is like 8, 9 years ago. And then kind of thought, actually, you know what, why don't I take all of the skills that I've learned, in helping other organizations and individuals through coaching? Why don't I do some good with that and help people who want to be better, want to make a big difference? And that's how Meee started.
Amazing. I think what I love is that we were literally just talking about it before, is that kind of that want and need to be able to help and support other people. And it's really interesting. I think school programs in particular are so important. It really fits with our ethos at the moment. We were talking before and said, how many times do you go into a school careers day and many people say that they want to be a PA, for example? It's just, they want to be an influencer, they want to be a pilot, or, they want to go into space, or they want to work with tech, and that's great. And it's only by spending time with our young people and really understanding what their world is like and how we can put our, see through their eyes. It's really interesting that you said that those, people were coming out with those sorts of comments at school, and it's about bringing those communities together. So I think I've watched your work and the things that you do, and I know some of our members who are part of the academia, they've been to some of the events that you've done before, and so it was an absolute natural recommendation to be able to have you at our event. So I know that Paula has spoken about this session and said the session that you're going to be doing for us at conferences, organizations don't change, people do. So can you tell us a little bit more about that session, please, Sid?
Yeah, I think it's that thing, isn't it? And it's that word, isn't it? Kind of feedback. What do people think of feedback? And a lot of people think of feedback as being quite necessary, obviously necessary, but also quite negative as well. And in a way, for me, feedback is just an opportunity to grow. That's it. And if we see it in that way, then it will see it as a positive. And I think for me, the session is all about that. We want to feel safe, don't we, as individuals? We know that, if you take, Amy Edmondson's brilliant book, The Fearless Organization, it's all about creating that psychological safety, that physical safety, where it's a safe environment to do stuff that's wrong, or not necessarily wrong, but, we can kind of make mistakes and all the rest of it and then grow together. And for me, it's like, how do we do that? For me as an individual, for us as a team, and us as an organization, and us as a society, really. And for me, it comes back down to that sense of belonging. It's like when you have, kids who feel they don't belong, they feel disconnected, that goes all the way up in through society, that even manifests itself at work. So how do you create that wonderful, safe environment for yourself, but also for others, to be able to have honest conversations? And I was talking to a vice principal last year, and she said a brilliant saying. She said, I had to learn how to have robust conversations, but actually care when I was doing it. And I think that for me is just so important. It's like, yeah, we need feedback. We need to grow. We need to adapt. We need to innovate and do all that kind of stuff. But what are the tools that I can use that really gets to understand who Daniel is as a person? Yes, I see Daniel at work, but where's the rest of Daniel? Because that's a huge world.
Yeah.
And I think once we start exploring values and really getting to know people, then that's where the really good stuff comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's really exciting. We can't wait. I think some of the biggest challenges that we see from a lot of our members is having the confidence to come forward and have those conversations. And I do feel that since the pandemic, I think a lot of people have lost their confidence. A lot of people's confidence isn't as I know my confidence isn't as I've got up to speak on stage the other day. My legs were buckling, and that beforehand, that wasn't even an issue for me, just in the environment that I've grown up in. But I also think it's really interesting that you touch on childhood, because I think we carry so much of that into the world that we live in now. And if you listen to a lot of people's podcasts, or you listen to a lot of people that speak nowadays, they really refer back to their childhood and how some of the lessons that they've learned or experiences they went through have carried through into their adult life as well. Do you see that a lot as well,
Yeah,
Sid?
huge. Yeah, I mean, there's a guy called Dr. Gabor Mate, and absolutely adore the guy. I mean, I really do. Works out of North America, and he's written a whole series of books. He's now in his 70s, and he recently published a book called The Myth of Normal, and he's written it with his son Daniel. It's a brilliant book, and he talks about trauma, wherever that is in childhood or whatever, how that manifests itself. And one of the things that he talks about, and it's not just him, but many people who deal in the world of kind of trauma and, kind of anxiety and everything else, they say actually that the opposite of addiction is connection. When we lose that connection to self, and that's what's happened over the last few years, definitely through COVID and other stuff, is that we've lost that connection of social beings. I mean, that's who we are. We're social beings. That's what we are. And I think, COVID, on top of all of the other stuff that we've got, that's how we've ended up feeling insecure. I mean, I'm sure you've noticed, but I noticed with my kids when I go around the supermarket, people are just so busy. They're so closed down now. Even when I'm out on a run on my bike or wherever I'm out, I always say, morning, hi. So many people are like, no, leave me alone. And we've lost that sense of connection, haven't we? And that's that thing is that, Mate talks about it, is that how do we get back to, yes, trauma's happened, but how do we get over that? Yes, we've had a traumatic couple of years, but how do we reset? What are the buttons that we can kind of press that help us get back into, being more social and not seeing the world as kind of fearful and threatening, really?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be a really interesting session, and we can't wait for it. So that conference. So thank you so much. And I just want to celebrate the relationship that you have with Paula. And obviously you've working together for 18 months, and I know that you've spoken at other PA conferences previously. What's it like coming into this world of into the world of assistance and business support partnerships that you've got?
Well, it's really interesting because you said at the beginning, Daniel, where you kind of go into schools and they want to be, an influencer or whatever that is. What I find really interesting about that is that for many years, I thought of a PA and EA as somebody that was just there. They were a resource, and that, I mean, please forgive me for thinking that. But actually now, having worked with Paula now for 18 months, the value that EAs and PAs bring to a business is unbelievable. I mean, it is. I mean, she's brilliant. I mean, there's loads of things that we've learned. I mean, it's been a, you know, a huge journey of learning from both our sides. But the value, the magic that she's brought to me is huge, absolutely massive. And for me, it's really made me realize that whatever level of organization one is in, is there is magic there. And I think that EAs and PAs are some of the most unseen and unsung magicians in business. I really do. And I would advise any entrepreneur, any MD, any person who needs somebody to help them manage their life and progress, innovate, all of those things, get an EA or a PA. They are worth more than gold. They really are.
Amazing. Paula, if you're watching this, I bet that's good. That's one for you. I love that. And just to leave us finally, so tell us about some of the, I appreciate we're in April at the moment, and we're going to see you on the 15th of June at Voco, St. John's in Solihull. But tell us about some of the exciting projects that you're working on or that you've got coming up at the moment.
Oh, thank you. I mean, we do a lot of work in FE and HE, do a lot of work with staff. And it's all around, how do you make organizations better? How do they feel better about themselves? We do a lot of work with the Department of Work and Pensions, people who are sadly unemployed, you know, for fuel programs, which give them the fuel to kind of, you know, go into work or whatever. So we do a lot of work there. Doing a lot of work at the moment. Schools and universities and colleges are finding lots of kids are dropping out. So we're just about to launch a series of talks and workshops around stay, which is, okay, this is the reason to stay at college, at university, at school or whatever. We're doing some work with staff who, again, are feeling a bit, just a bit demotivated. You know, they've lost a bit of their mojo. So those are coming up, but lots of sessions of those coming up over the next few months. Building loads of stuff online. I'm writing another book, which is great. Yeah, just do it. I said to you earlier, I love coloring and I like being creative. I love going out and helping people. And as you say, you know, when you have somebody who's in a workshop that just goes, I now know what I want to do. And it's just so beautiful. And you see a child, their eyes light up and they go, this is me. This is who I am.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, trying to do that every day, really.
Amazing. Sid, it's been a pleasure to spend some time with you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate Paula organising this time for us together as well. So we can't wait to see you in June. Thanks ever so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much.